Okay, we're going to resume part two of the city council meeting. So next up is item number 9, city manager 90-day evaluation. I'll pass that to Mr. King for introduction.
Okay, Mayor and Council, item 9 is my 90-day evaluation. This is presented tonight as a discussion item. The agenda summarizes notes that I began on the employment January 5th and completed through the initial 90-day period of April 5th. While the employment agreement does not specifically require quarterly evaluations, the council has discussed the value of conducting them regularly, and it's an item that has been placed on the agenda for the council's request. Key points for council information: supporting materials in the agenda packet, including my 90-day assessment, strategic plan, and strategic comparison to the one that you guys presently have that goes up to 2023 has been added so that you guys can see the significance in the adjustments to it, and then the ICMA template for the discussion piece. Key points. There's no recommended motion at this time unless council chooses to make one during the discussion. My recommendation would be use tonight's council discussion, feedback, and direct evaluation process. Mayor, that concludes my introductory remarks.
Okay. So with that, I had a couple questions on the evaluation. I'm going to go to page 143, which is Section C, Council Focus Accomplishment through Engagement. Let's see.
143?
Yeah, 143.
143?
143.
Okay.
Opportunity being pursued.
What you know what page that is on the bottom?
Yeah, 143. Well, page 12. Oh, page 12 of your thing? Yeah, page 12.
143.
I'm a paper guy.
143 of the agenda. Yes.
143 trade box.
So as looking through some of these things, and the state and grant positioning, establish state relationships and legislative connections to support appropriation grants and major capital needs. You line some grant numbers out there. Obviously, there's been a lot in the pipeline. It was already that predates you. Could you?
Well, the stuff that I've added there, stuff that I've gone after, or stuff that I've worked with our grant manager to pursue based on my actual start date of January 5th, and basically capturing everything that we pursued forward from that point. Because my strategy coming into this position is being with Kansas City. One of the downfalls that we had there is we had a limited budget. We had twice the size, but we probably had a third less the budget. And in order to get investments into infrastructure, which was my biggest challenge, because especially after the storm and the fact that they'd neglected a large portion of their infrastructure for over a decade, was that I had to go after money that I didn't have for those improvements. And what I found is that grant investment or grant opportunities at $700 billion a year in opportunity was out there to grab. And so what I saw that there as a strategy was to go after as much of that as I could to offset any of the costs that I had specifically for infrastructure. And what I've done here is when I found out that we had a grant manager, I thought that was awesome. Hey, it's like, now I physically have somebody other than myself that can spend hours looking for this. And what I've done is working with Pam and working with the police chief and all the different directors and the fire chief, is that hunting and finding the goodness and grants that are out there. So while I specifically may not have gone, I found that $1 million grant, what I've done is I've made that the culture of what our staff currently is. It's like, hey, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the funds to go after everything we want. How do we get there? And so let's look at grants as being that one opportunity that probably gets neglected over most of them that are out there. Because even with the park projects, one of the things we looked at is we said, hey, we want to do a walkway out there. It got creative. It's like, well, this is going to be really expensive. What's one of the ways we can offset it? I said, well, let's look at an ADA grant, because what we want is we want accessibility for all of our patrons out there. So how can we nest that into our boardwalk project plan so I can offset the X million dollars that our parks are going to cost us? That we want option A. How do we get to option A when we can only afford option C or B at this moment? So my goal is to continue to engage with the grant program as much as possible. Be fully engaged in that, because it's opportunities that I don't think people really realize they're out there. And like you've seen with police chief, and with the fire chief, the grants that they've been able to get after and go after. And that's what I will continue to pursue as one of those funding gaps that we have to make our city, as vibrant as possible. That is what I've gone after, and those are some of the major ones that I've plugged into. And what you'll see is when we start talking, I guess there was a discussion with the vice mayor when we were looking at for Bachelor Park, how we want to design that. One of the big things that was a part of that discussion was kind of the underlying discussion was grant. There was a big grant tied to that for the boat ramp that we wanted to put out there, the playground we wanted to put out there. So being able to offset those costs. And so what you'll see is not only going after those, as of getting in the seat, but being very proactive and being proactive to the point where not only am I going after them, but I built a culture that the directors are going after. Daryl's going after them. Anybody can see something in addition to what our funding gaps are, that they're looking for opportunity. And that's the big thing to take from that. It's an opportunity and it's something that we should fully invest in and be a part of.
Okay, I had a question before we do that. So since it's 9 o'clock, can you motion to extend?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting past 9 o'clock. Second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, put a vote on favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Can you, and I'm not sure what page it's on, but can you tell us also we know about some of the grants. I want to say that the one new grant, substantial grant, was the $40 million for the water plant that you mentioned in there.
Right.
Is-
Well, I would say with the water plant, go ahead.
Have we put that grant out there? Or we know it's there? Give me a status of that $40 million grant, I guess.
That application is due in May. No, not May. I either want to say the end of May or the end of June. I have to talk to Pam Lynch about that. We're talking with the water plant designer, McKinnon Creed, to make sure we have, because what we want to do is dedicate everything we can to get this one.
Sure.
We're putting a lot of work into this because if we can get this construction money, that would be really, really big for us. So we're coordinating with them to see when we would get all the materials that we would need to put with that packet to show that we're pretty much committed design-wise. And that would put us in a high percentage rate to get that. So, but right now we're coordinating with them and she's putting it together. But I don't think it's due until either the end of this month or the end of June.
And
So-
the big piece for us is having a shovel-ready project ready to go. And that's what we're trying to close the loop on right now, because we're 90% there and South being real diligent to make sure that we haven't gotten any gaps in that. Because as I looked at that, and one of the things I looked at is, as we met with Mike Moore, is how do we manage that strategy, especially with large end items such as that. So the initial piece is getting after that grant through BRIC and through that, and then being is best prepared in dealing and working with the engineering company, because why, they have experience working with that same grant and knows how to help us get across the line with that. But also looking at that as an additional strategy. As I sit down with Mike, because I've talked with him and said, hey, we got big ticket items here that are major items. One of them being my water plant, and if we have challenges in the process with grants, how do I get the appropriations? And so I said, so we're starting our early engagement. So as it goes to council for engagement for those projects that goes up, and what I'm trying to do with him is set the conditions when he goes into Tallahassee and has those discussions. It's not something new. They know these projects are coming, and so if we have any failure to grant, that we're at least got another option, that
Backup plan.
the appropriations, that we're talking to the right people that will get this through and across the finish line for us.
And a couple of numbers on that. So I saw several references to $59 million on the water plant. I was under the impression it was $45 million was the cost. So did some change?
45 million, I think, was the cost. I think 59 million is the number.
If she's putting down 59, she's compensating
Yeah.
for inflation costs of construction, because what the number they've given us now is set right now, but that may change.
Also, that's
by the
future
time
value or whatever. So
By the future value by the time we go to construction.
And that's
So we
what
wanna
do
make-
with them. Yeah.
And plus, there's
Well, that's good.
And
Yeah.
it has to be
Yes.
all.
You'd be
Don't like
flexible.
surprises.
What's that?
It has to be all American products as well.
Yeah.
So those products are going to be.
The cost will be inflated. And that's one of the big things is we do projects, and that'll go into our budget planning. Is we look at things and we project years out, we're going to have to plan 5-6% increase in cost of those projects we're looking at. So the fact that we address them early helps us in the impacts later.
So is the grant maximum 40 million? What?
Oh, 59.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Well,
think
59 is the cost, the inflated cost.
I'm tracking what we submit for.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't, she's doing the preparations for preparing the grant. I don't have those numbers in front of me. We can get the specifics back, but
Yeah.
we're in the pre-application process right now, so we haven't even.
I just again, because I was understanding that there was a path to get all of that. So if it's really 59 million, we should be asking for 59 million.
Yes, and the goal is to ask for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if we inflate the price, because at the end of the day, it goes to if they approve it and we do come under for some reason, what additions we need.
Right. Okay. I had my question was answered on that one. The dredging and coastal resiliency is it built a dredging and coastal resiliency strategy with Stan Tech, Matthew Starr, Stephanie Pover, and regulatory partners. I don't believe we've seen that. So
Okay, we're working that project right now. The big piece on that one is it's a grant strategy for that because the challenges with that are because we have residential and we have coastal and we need some requirements for documentation to show a pre-1967. I guess it was a dredging aerial.
To show that that there was a maintenance dredge done before 1970. So we did produce, Stantec was able to produce an aerial showing that this city was done before as a maintenance dredge. And that's what we're trying to approach that. There are grant opportunities since that was done before. And we've had conversations with both FDEP and Army Corps that there can be opportunities since it's already been done before as that. And that's why that was a very important piece that we just recently locked in with our conversations with both those entities about moving forward. So Stantec has already been looking into grant opportunities for us to move forward on that. So, they've pointed out, I don't have the information here in front of me, but of other municipalities that have already gotten dollars to do those projects. So it was really good news, and this is very, very recent, that we received this news about approaching this as a maintenance dredge type of project. The conversation that we just had with Army Corps was basically talking about what kind of permit we were going to go for. We were going to go for a special type of permit, but now we're thinking of keeping it as it was before as a general permit, because a general permit will allow us to go ahead and extend it, modify it if necessary, add channels if something comes up. If you stick with a special type of special permit, it limits your choices. So that conversation I just had this week.
And with Stantec, one of the things, like I said, I built the culture on this. So where did I get the idea for the granting opportunities? Was Stantec. Because what they did is with St. Pete, what they did is they dredged a lake that they have. It was a $3 million project. They were able to get it through CDRP. I think that's the correct one, where they got the funding for the $3 million. And in our discussion, I said, what's our projected cost of this? And we sat down, did the math. $17 million is the number that we came up with what the projected cost of this would be. So I said, okay, well, if that's the cost, what are the opportunities for grants out there that you've already used on projects that you've already done? And what's out there that I can reach and grab? What are those? And then not only what can I grab and what can I pay, looking at this as a phased project, if I can get that grant, that's $3 million off my $17 million. Can I get it annually for the next 3 or 4 years, phase my product out? And are there other opportunities of funds that we can include on that? And then how do I handle the residential dredging? And what they did is they also gave me Naples, Florida. They gave me their actual. They have an MSTU for residential houses that do have canals, where they've got a percentage piece that they run and dredge it periodically. They've met 15, 20 years, and what they do is they put an MSTU on those that have the waterfront property tax. So that one, it pays it over a period of 20 years, or we get the opportunity every so often to do that. So what we've been doing is looking at where there's been success with where there's been success with engineering firms with grants they're using, the grants we have access to, and grants we have opportunities for, that can, one, offset our costs, develop our costs over a phased period of time, and then if there's a portion of our project that can't be covered through grants and stuff like that, because it's residential property, because I know we've got residential concerns with dredging out there, is how can we get at and assist in that process there, from a city's perspective of getting out there and applying that piece. Now, these are just recommendations through this process of my assessment, because what I don't want to do is I don't want people stressing, I've already got to put an MSTU on it, but having options to be able to like Vice Mayor said, I want to go after it now. Once this project's done, he said, once it's done, I want to be able to get after it. Okay, I'm getting after it. How am I doing that? I'm rushing the ball, and I'm looking at every opportunity, and I'm leveraging those people that are working for us on successes they've had with grant projects that they've gotten.
So is the strategy that's referenced here basically just that the grants or whatever to pay for it? Or when I read it, I didn't know if there was some kind of plan, I guess, in place.
Well, the plan is to go after those grants now, but we've got to have a shovel-ready project. And so what I've got to wait for is I've got to wait for the project completion, and then I can take that completed shovel-ready project, and then I can, because most all these grants that we're looking at have to be a shovel-ready project. I can't just say, hey, I've got a good project here, or just, hey, we're dredging, or we want to dredge, hey, I want money. Right now, there's no opportunity out there for it. I've got to be able to leverage a shovel-ready project, or I've got to find a tax revenue base,
Right.
Which we don't have access to right now.
Okay. On the private investment, when we talk about coordinated private development interests with Ryan Burke, Bobby Kruger, and what is there something more to that than is already there?
Well, it's our continuation process in that it's
Just supporting that effort.
Yeah, we're supporting that effort, but we've got it online now, and I think you being part of that assistance process in there, I think that was one of the biggest challenges is getting that aligned properly, because we were just rubbing antenna on items to move forward, and what we were able to do is now we've got the solution to the problem set, which we've been trying to work towards together, and so that we're moving together with that project. I think tonight's going to be another example of the successes we're able to move forward with that opportunity.
Okay. And then the regional relationships, talk about strengthen relationships with Pasco County Administrator Michael Bala and Newport Richie, Debbie Mans.
Yes, working hard on those. Debbie Mans and I have a pretty good relationship. I mean, with myself, with the police department, fire department, we've gone down there and we've spoken with her and her team, just in agreements, because as the two only cities that have a fire department, police department, and actually have our own agencies and services, and I know our residents want to keep them, and I know council wants to keep them. So we're looking at how we maintain it, how we're able to fund it and support it, without being taxed by county, in addition to processes that we probably don't want at this time, or unless council tells me they want to go in a different direction, we'll go. And with the county administrator having those big discussions about assistance and resources and those opportunities. Matter of fact, Connor sent me some questions today, reference the MSTU for fire department, EMS, and for parks, and that'll be something I bring up to you guys here in the near future. Is kind of where we stand right now. I would say it's not really the direction we want to go as far as what I know about council and what we want for response times, what our community wants. And then for parks, one of the discussions I had is you're trying to charge me for parks that I already maintenance. And I said, I'm offsetting my costs right now with grants. I don't want my taxpayers to pay any more money out of this. And they're like, well, you'll get a reduction, you'll get money back if you take your fire department. I said, well, at the end of the day, when I do the math sitting here with you, it balances out to zero. There's really no net gain for me, but what do you gain? Well, what you gain is you get to take your fire department and your EMS, pull it out of your budget of $40 million, and you put it in my pocket, in the pocket of other cities and county residents to pay it through an MSTU, whereas you retain your $40 million in your budget. Now you get an increase of $40 million, and I don't get a bite of that apple. I mean, so for me, it's kind of a disadvantage, in support of that, kind of in the long-term look. So what I do is I coordinate with them, trying to work those relationships, because what I don't want to sour is the relationship that we have with them, with our law enforcement and our fire department. But we're working strongly to offset if there are any issues where it's like, well, you need a ladder truck, you're not part of our MSTU, we're going to bill you. Well, that's okay, because we've now got an agreement with another city that does have a fire ladder, and we'll just use them instead. So we're covering our bases for those things that would financially trap us or tax us in a way in which we as a community don't want to be taxed.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to use that as a segue, because there was obviously the public went out and looked at this document. There's a couple of references in there about the fire department specifically,
Right.
I wanted to dispel any confusion that would have came from that, because you can if you read that lightly, you wouldn't understand where that was coming from. And I'm gonna go to it now just to reference it. Let me get there in a second. On page 151, you'll see under intergovernmental cost shifting, it says a possible fire department merger must be evaluated full cost and service modeling. So the public understands there is no possible fire department merger. That's not. It reads like that, but there is none. What Don just described, the county, they were doing a couple things as we talk about the legislature possibly doing something different with property taxes. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to mitigate for that. And so that's what the Parks MSTU comes in, I think. And they're coming at the cities asking, and I've been really involved in any of these discussions. You probably know more than I do, but in a nutshell, they want us to take on those Parks MSTUs. And that's just an additional cost to us and our taxes, right? And so, and their mitigation strategy is, well, if you pay the MSTU for the parks and you give us your fire department,
You make cost savings on your fire department.
it ends up with a cost savings. So that's a county kind of
Strategy.
Power grab.
shell game, right? So,
Like a power grab to me.
but the important thing to understand is all that, whatever they come to us, that's something that the council would have to adopt
Yes.
if we were going to go that route. You know, they may show us numbers. I think they probably showed you numbers. So I guess
They showed me numbers, and when we did the math, I was like, no, I need to see millage, true millage to dollar amounts, that this is going to save the city, and is it worth the risk to the city to give up, the system that it has in place? Because right now, here's a simple example. You got a 7-minute response time for the fire department in Pasco County. You got a 3-minute response time for your fire department here. 7 minutes is a lifetime. Let's say water safety. Water safety right now, we're probably the most responsive water element out there. And we're getting a lot of feedback from other communities and cities that, hey, we want you to be part of a larger water safety team, because we had a rescue for 7 individuals that were out there. I guess Pasco County was about an hour and a half away from Hudson to get there. Coast Guard was 3 hours away. We were minutes away. And so we were like, hey, and my argument to him was, you're going to tax me on all this here, but in the same breath, I'm not going to tax you to go out and save you, because we're doing the right thing. If there's a fire, I'm going to support you. I don't expect to be taxed. I don't expect to tax you. So, that there's a relationship there that I'd like to maintain. It's been through MSTU, it's been through MOAs and MOUs, and we've tried to maintain those. It just looks like with the MOU that we have with them right now, that's got stalled in place for potentially the MSTU, and we're hoping that's not the case.
Okay. And then just further on that, page 153, there's another reference to it on the third item near term. It's I will continue engaging Pasco County on fire EMS, MSTU, Parks MSTU, and potential fire department merger discussions. Again, that is that same thing.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate, there is no discussions about.
I apologize for the language. In clarity, and the fact that I had to do this as detailed as I could.
Sure.
I tried to keep from blurring lines as much as possible, but I wanted to make sure that the information.
Right.
But as far as that is, it's more in relationship to MSTU as opposed to what we as a city actually probably want.
Are those discussions only being had with Pasco because of the property tax discussions in Tallahassee, or
It was.
so with that not happening,
Well,
are these discussions going forward based on future legislature?
Well, those, we say not happening, they are happening.
The Senate didn't pass it, so
So
I know
there
there's
may be
another.
a special session.
I understand.
later on.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get to here.
That's their interest
Is-
behind it.
Can you
so
stop
the
fucking
continuation
yapping,
of
bro?
those conversations is because of the continuation of those conversations.
I would say partly because in the discussions, it's also a revenue deficiency. that they get to retain, it's $40 million. Now, because now if the property tax doesn't go, the property tax is not taken in, it remains as is now, they get a $40 million increase in the budget because they're not changing their MSTU requirement. But if the property tax goes through, yes, it's a good offset for them if they do get that. But it's still an issue item on because it's also a revenue savings for them to be able to generate more general fund money. Now, I will tell you that the MSTU for the police department, that has died.
Yeah, that's off the table. And just so people know, they were thinking about taking the county, which is 7, like you saw earlier, 7 mills. They were going to pull 3 mills out of that, drop your county down to 4, put the 3 over to the sheriff's department, so it's bucketed for the sheriff.
Yeah.
And they wanted the city to pass it on. It would be a wash, but that would open up discussion, obviously, for us is, we have our own police department. Why we pay full 3 when our next door neighbor who needs the sheriff when we don't? Pays 3, so.
And I will tell you right now, I would just say from I'm not going to say for fact, but I would just say that the only 2 cities that have a fire department right now, I don't think either one is really, I don't think that the councils of those cities with those 2 fire departments are really interested right now. I'm not saying that they won't be. I'm just saying just from my initial engagements that, the only 2 cities with fire departments want to retain those from a city and government perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So, and on 154, same thing. There's a reference to fire merger. So, just so the public knows, no discussions at all. There's no even appetite by me or anything else to give it for a fire department or police department.
So,
What's that?
you're not on or shut down.
No.
No, Zoom's down.
Zoom.
Yeah, we're still meeting Zoom. So, just any public goes out there and reads that.
But I do stay in communication because I got an email today again on it, and so once again, I just reinforce the fact that right now, as I look at the package and I look at the agreement, there's not an appetite right now from our city council for it. But if there ever becomes one, I will let you know.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm reading you guys right in every meeting that we're sitting in. This is this is kind of the pride of our town,
Recording
pride
in
of the services
progress.
we provide, and I think that people really appreciate the services that the fire department
100%.
does. And I think they're spot on.
Okay. The last thing I had, the community engagement, where it talks about advanced parks, special events, faith-based partnerships, markets, community cleanups, family-focused event programming. Obviously, there's some stuff going on from the chamber perspective with the markets and whatnot, and city, again, nothing really new there, just kind of supporting those going forward.
And I think the bigger piece is better integrating those because you and I have had some communications back and forth, and I think the leakage, from administrative side is that we tighten up that linkage so that when we do have opportunities for promotion of ourselves and our other community partners, that we're capitalizing on that when we're pushing that out. And in our, I guess, our social media and our administrative media, so that we are getting the bigger picture of what Port Richey is doing with ourselves and with others. Because I think that's important.
And the last thing I have on
This meeting has been backed by UAJB.
is
I'm not doing Zoom anymore this evening, just so you're aware.
Yeah,
No more Zoom.
Several people keep trying to jump onto the feed, and then it happened again. So
Yeah, it's shut down.
It's shut down.
We're shutting it down.
yeah. So that's odd because there's no ability to share, right? So they must in some way.
No, but they put it on the screen for everybody to see in the meeting itself.
Triple X nasty stuff.
Yeah, no, but I didn't think they could share their screen unless they had the rights. We'll talk about it later, I guess, if it's going on. So last thing I have is the city manager position reference under page 150. We talked about this at a prior meeting. It says council should maintain oversight, but the process is distinguished between policy decision and routine execution. Once council approves a project and budget, staff should be able to execute within that scope unless the project exceeds the original budget and must return to council for additional authorization. We spoke about that, and obviously the checks and balances there. I thought we had an understanding that when we go through.
Can I go forward with this
Yeah,
one?
go ahead.
Well, the discussion here is what I want to do is I want to set us up for success for next year. And so as we sit down and we do our budget, what I want to do is I want to develop our spend plan and our project plan for next year. So as we go through and we present the budget, and what I'm working on is providing you guys the right budget with the right information, with the right requirements, and everything built into it. So when you look at it and you approve it, you go, this is our spend plan for this year. This is what we want. Don, when October 1st kicks off, we want you to execute this. And so you allow me the freedom to run for you to accomplish those tasks and projects. And what I do is I come back to you and I go, Mayor, can't do this project that you wanted me to do, that we pre-positioned the plan, because it's going to cost me, let's say, $10,000 more. So then I bring the project back to council, and then I go, hey, can I move forward with this? It's going to be an additional $10,000. Or you go, no, we're going to have to reallocate that money to something else. $10,000 is too much. Or yes, keep running with that project. But what I've been trying to do is I'm trying to build a spend plan for the city, for you guys, to fire me off to accomplish those tasks and those mission requirements that you want for the city, and only have to come back to you if I have a problem, as opposed to, trying to work through it, because I feel like I'm kind of working through it this year, just kind of I'm working against the tide because I came in at the wrong time. I came in after the budget, I came in after the spend plan, and to be honest with you, I don't know what the budget looks like now. So I'm in a point of frustration because I'm trying to accomplish for you guys, but I don't even know what I have in my back pocket right now. It's like I lost my wallet. Where's my wallet? So as I'm trying to move forward, I'm just trying to develop processes in place for the council to be able to fire their city manager off to go do those mission sets and those projects for them, so that you are getting the results that you want from me. And the only time that you should have to, like a racehorse, you want me to race. And when you don't want me to race, those moments where you go, it's over budget, will pull you back. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to look at possible strategies to move that forward, and that's that comment there.
Right. Well, so.
But you did see that today we did put that one acquisition piece for the lawnmower into the consent agenda. So what I saw is that is a different approach, is that for projects that are on it, let's put it in the consent agenda, have you guys review it. If you still concur with what your spend plan was, what we planned for last year that we projected for, then put it in there and see how that works. And so today it worked very well. I mean, you guys, I expected somebody to stop me and say, don't do that. And it was like, okay, this is a model that we can use. And if that works, disregard.
Yeah, no, like
and we'll work with, but what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to create processes that help us move more efficiently.
I just want to be clear. There's a budget authority and there's a spending authority.
Correct.
And so when council sits down in our budget authority hat,
Right.
We're planning kind of what we see or whatever, but that's just a plan, and that plan can be deviated from. We may headwinds change or whatever, and so we still want to have that ability to say go ahead. We actually want to do what we planned, but we may want to change gears because of circumstances. So that's it's not necessarily we don't want to that we want to hinder progress. But when you're going through the budget process and you got all these different things and all these different departments, you're not you wouldn't want to be making those decisions knowing the race is coming in June if you're going to run that race or not, right? You're planning on running it, but you're not going to run it.
Well, the only example I had is like with Kansas City, I ran with the budget as the spend plan. So my first 90 days, 3 parks, splash pad, pickleball lights, and dog parks. That was in 90 days, and that was in its first 90 days, and another 90 more days till completion. So what I see when I look at the CRA plan, something that we've kind of sat on for years, is being able to execute and move forward, because you guys have a great vision. I want to capture that vision while it's in the moment. And what I don't want to ever have anybody second guess themselves on a project that is there. It's there. And I want to grasp that moment and be able to accomplish that and execute that mission for you. What I don't want is I don't want us to second guess the greatness that you guys are doing and be able to put it on the table for the city and the residents. Because I think right now, like you said, this is the right council, right time, right opportunity, and we're moving fast. I just want to move fast enough for you, so that when your residents are out there, they're seeing it go up. They're seeing it going up. They're making comments on the color. They're coming back to you guys and saying, I love this thing. This thing was great. How about, I see you putting that up there. Mayor, what about this? And you're throwing it back at me. Hey, Don, let's add this to it. I'm like, well, hell, let me go back and let's see if I can put it on there. And if I can, we'll do it.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I feel like you never get to the
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just feel like you never get to the point, or you don't answer the question. So it's hard to
Okay,
talk
well,
to you sometimes.
I'm sorry, I thought I'd gotten to the,
No, you're like totally off point.
well,
You're not answering the question, and that's the answer we want to hear.
okay, the question on that is, yes, I will bring it to council every time you guys want to spend money.
So,
That's the question. I'm just letting you know what I hope for you.
so that's kind of all the question I had about, I guess, the evaluation. Anybody have anything specific to the evaluation they wanted to ask or whatever?
The form itself.
Well, the packet that he put together with stuff, is there anything on there that you want to, I thought what we do is we would get all those questions answered, like I just kind of went through mine, and then we open up for citizen discussion. So is there any, I don't know if you guys have any questions on any of that? Okay. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor to comments, individual comments. Anybody who wants to jump in?
Go ahead, Bob.
I don't have anything. It's been pretty comprehensive.
I mean, the only thing I have is we're at 90 days right now. And me personally, as far as communication, I'm not getting the warm and fuzzy with you as far as your response time to me calling you or talking to you or those things. I kind of feel like as your employer, which is who I am, that you would feel much more apt to return my call, get back to me, those kind of things. I have heard, from staff that you are telling staff not to answer our calls and to run everything through you. I mean, I'm a resident of the city. Not only am I a resident, but I'm also a business owner. Not only a business owner, but I'm also vice mayor of the city council. And I feel highly offended when you tell people not to take my calls, when I call in. That to me tells me that you're doing something that's underhanded and that you are trying to keep us from seeing something about you. My job as a hired or an elected official here is to make sure I've got flashlights and magnifying glasses on you and everybody in here. That's my job, So I feel highly offended by that. So my 90-day assessment of you, I've got it right here. I'm not going to get into it. It's not very positive, and here's why it's not positive. I think your military experience gives you a lot of benefits in life, but when it comes to like interaction with other people, I think it's like, my way or the highway kind of thing, and I have not felt a very warm and fuzzy connection with you. I mean, unfortunately, Matt quit the day I started, and I never got a relationship with him, but I don't have a warm and fuzzy. I really don't. And I don't know what's going on. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. I don't feel a genuine authenticity from you. It's kind of like something that I'm not comfortable with. So,
Lisa, Jen?
Not yet.
I have a concern about your relationship with council, with our city attorney. I know you mentioned that you weren't working with her and with the fiscal problems that we're having and the relationship failure between you and council. I'm concerned how we're getting through this process. And if you could explain to me how you're getting through the process without council, because I have reached out and she did confirm that you're not reaching out to her. So I want to find out, the finance issues.
Okay.
Because I'm not quite sure myself the level of the financial issues that were.
Well, I do apologize.
Mhm.
And how I'm communicating with you guys, what I'm trying to do is I show up every day trying to do the best I can for you guys without burdening you with a whole bunch of questions. I would say that my background, my experience has put me in positions where I've been asked to do the impossible and have been very successful at accomplishing the impossible. And so I apologize that I don't come to you and have those conversations. I don't want to make excuses. I fill my day up as much as possible. If I miss your call, I do apologize if I miss your call. I do. You can ask the staff. I'm engaged every day, every moment with as much as I can because I'm trying to do as much as I can because I know time's finite. When it comes to the lawyer and I, the lawyer and I, we're working through our processes right now. It's a new relationship. I'm used to operating certain ways with lawyers and lawyers that I've supervised and been over. I've been in charge of lawyer departments, not working with lawyers. So I'm used to working with somebody and then the expectations we've built together, we're still building our relationship. You guys, it's gonna take time as we build our relationship because there's areas that I'm still working on. I try to go to her when I need her on things, but I try to solve, you know, our internal problems the best way that I think I can without having to seek that legal counsel if I don't need to. As far as the finance piece, that was a problem since week 2. I came in week 2. I knew you guys had a financial issue when I stepped in here because I could smell it. But
Why did you not tell us on week
I
2
did.
if you already knew that?
I've been talking with the mayor, and I've been saying this. And I apologize. I do apologize. Like I
There's
said,
far more of us.
Yeah, I know, and I apologize for that. And that's where I owe you guys. But I've been trying to work it out without surfacing it. I've been trying to work it so that Adam would perform at the level I needed him to. Because what I did is I didn't want to come in under that 90-day window just throwing axe at somebody. I wanted to give him the opportunity to prove that he could do the job. And I said, the one thing that we've done with him was we failed to give him the opportunities and the resources. So I gave it all to him. And then what happened is it fell short. So at that point, I made a decision that I had to do one of two things, ask him to resign or to terminate. And I can give you examples right here. And the CLA rep that was here, Lance, was going to be here to answer any questions that you guys had with any of the current budget issues that we're incurring. Because when I stepped in, I didn't have a budget. You guys don't have a posted budget. I don't have a signed budget from the council that I can put on our website that shows where we're at.
Well, why has that not been addressed? I mean, why have you not come to council to ask
Because
us
I've been
about
working my butt off this first 90 days to get all this under my hands.
that? But I've been asking repeatedly for financials to go up on the website
Right.
and what's going on with the financials.
And I've been working, and
I still don't know what's going on with the
and
financials.
neither do I.
I can't call our attorney and ask.
Well, here's what I've got. Bank reconciliation is not adequately reconciled. Trial balance is not met, net zero due to reserve and encumbrance system limitations. Beginning fund balance for certain funds does not reconcile general fund with wastewater and fund. Lack of knowledge of state and local government fund accounting. Client audit prepared schedules were not accurately completed for what has been reviewed so far, such as capital assets and long-term debt. Budget summary does not tie directly to detailed schedules, seems to be due to calculation errors rather than a difference in fund inclusions and account mapping. Certain funds and accounts are excluded roll-up or presented differently in the summary than in the detailed schedule. Department shows on the org chart does not always correspond directly to how costs are represented in the budget. Budget narrative, summary, and department views are not fully synchronized.
Okay, now can I stop for a second? Nancy, can you tell me your level of understanding of this and to what level you've been brought into this? And if there's any reason for concern?
I can't answer the last question. I don't know if there's a reason for concern because I know a little bit that Don told me earlier. I know obviously the finance manager is now gone, and there's the reason for that, but I don't know the details of why or the financial aspects at all. Which I'm obviously not an accountant, so I wouldn't maybe understand them. But I didn't know there
Do
was
you have an
issue.
expectation in your role with the city that something to this level would be brought to your attention, or is it standard for that to be handled in-house without your attention?
Every city manager is going to handle things differently, right? So I think it would depend on the issue and what resources that city manager had and maybe their prior experience with that issue. If they had the resource to help address it, they may not need a legal, the initial, it may not be a legal opinion. It may be I need a CPA or an accountant or whatever other form of number person to address it versus maybe a legal aspect of it. So it would really depend on the issue. If that answers your question.
And with that being my position of responsibility under city manager's duties and responsibilities under Article 3 of your chapter, that is my role, and that's my role to execute. And I have taken the appropriate measures. One, identified the problem, made the appropriate adjustments. I didn't wait 90 days like most city managers sit 30, 60, 90 days, sit on my butt and wait to take action on something. I've been actively pursuing this because one, I knew I had a budget issue. I knew I had a presentation issue. I knew that I have a audit issue because we're going to fail audit this year unless the team I got on board was actually participating in providing that. The budget's getting ready to be finalized, and we're being able to match what you guys approved based on what we actually have, so we'll be able to tie everything together, because right now it's not in the right silos, money's everywhere right now. So I have a team doing the forensics cleanup on that. And then I've got where, not only do I have that, but I'm trying to project out, our budget plan for the next fiscal year and tying that all together. And now I do have the right team in place. We've got a contract with CLA. You guys have a historical relationship with them. They've got historical knowledge of what we've been doing in the past. I've been working with two teams right now. One with Kim and Ashley to work our audit issue. They've been working on that since for the last 3 months. I think it's 3 months. And then recently I brought on Junko, who's cleaning up our budget that goes back to October being a problem. She's working that, reconciling it now. We should have it in the next couple of days. She said have it in about a week. So I'll be able to have something for you that you can physically put your hands on, that you guys not had in probably a year and a half. It's been correct. And what I don't want to say is, as we move forward into the next budget, what I don't want to say is taking this job has been different, because there's a lot of stuff that you guys don't have visibility on. I don't want to problem you with that. There's a lot of stuff that your previous city managers did not do, and there's a lot of things that your previous finance directors did not do, and there's previous things that your HR reps did not do, that I find myself in a position where I'm trying to correct and put the
I
boat
feel like
back
you should talk to us about all these things instead of just trying to solve everything on your own.
Well,
it sounds like you're totally overwhelmed.
no, ma'am, I'm not overwhelmed. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve the problem within my will well before I have to ask council for assistance. And I figure I come to you when I do need that assistance, because I don't need to burden you with those things that are within my purview that I need to address. I take responsibility for everything. I work through everything. I'm committed to everything. I'm committed to Port Richey. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this city where it needs to be so that we can move forward, because we're not there from a financial, human resource perspective. We're just not. And we weren't there when I came in. And I know I want transparency. Everybody wants transparency. It's just, there's certain areas that I just don't want to burden you with, because I'm trying to solve a problem for you before it becomes your problem. Because I don't want this to be your problem. I want this to be my problem to solve, so that you guys are up and out, strategically thinking, talking with the residents, coming up with a strategic plan, providing that good feedback that I need from you, and so that I can do that, so that you're not doing the administrative legwork to bring this city where it needs to be. And that's the fact. I'm trying to bring this place where it needs to be. And if I'm off rudder, please let me know. But I work diligently every day. I come in early every day. I leave late every day, because I'm trying to fix these items.
So I'm going to comment about that. Okay, from what I see, and I have a limited visual of your attendance. Your attendance does not fall within what our agreement is, and if I'm wrong, let me know. Okay, I've seen where's Don? We don't know. Don's gone. Okay, numerous times. Don, there's a reason why the people have elected. We're a small city, and there's a reason why they picked us to sit in these seats here. And you, as the city manager, should be utilizing us like tools in your tool belt. And what you've done is you've isolated yourself into a place trying to solve whatever problems in your head you're trying to think. And we're out on the outsides not knowing what you're doing. And that's got me jacked up.
Okay. Well,
It's got me feeling like, that I'm on a bus. I can't see where the windshield is, what's going on.
okay. Well, directors.
I can tell you that every time I've ever needed him, I can tell you that every time I've ever needed him, he's been there. I can tell you that if I'd done something wrong, he's told me. I can tell you that if I needed support, he's gave it to me. I can tell you that Adam has misguided you for months and months and months. I can tell you that I can show you a string of emails where I've been asking, where we have been asking for budget reports, because I can't tell where I'm at financially. And I still will not have got it. I started in late October, which is the beginning of the budget year, sending him emails saying, I need an updated budget report. This is the same budget report you've been giving me. And so I can tell you that the things that he's explaining on the budget side, I can speak for myself. I mean, I know of some other issues other departments are having, but I still till today do not have the answer. I sat in a budget meeting and talked to him about my part-time budget. I said, I have a part-time, where are my part-time salaries coming from? He goes, the part-time salary line item. I said, no, they're not. That's why I keep asking you for a budget report. I've been asking it for months and months because I don't know. I have part-timers that work every day. And that number hasn't moved in months. I can show you a string of emails. You know what he says? I'm too busy to answer emails. He said that to all of us. I don't talk to anybody but department heads. I said, well, I'm a department head and you ain't talking to me. And I said, email is how we communicate. So if you're not answering emails, how are any of us expected to do our jobs? Now, listen, I like Adam. I like Adam, but as a worker, I can never get anywhere, and I feel like my wheels are spinning because I feel cornered, and I can't get anywhere because I can't get any information. If I showed you the budget report I have right now, and I showed you the one in December, they're identical as far as those certain line items. I brought this up to the boss, and he's like, I'm on it. I'm on it. You want to know what his answer to me was? This was in a private conversation. He says, I'm going to give the guy a chance. Maybe nobody's ever, I forgot how it worked. Maybe nobody's ever put his, their foot on him to say, hey, straighten up or we're going to have some problems. This was a conversation me and him had. He goes, so give him a chance. Let's see if we can't fix this problem. And that was a conversation that we had about it.
He told me the same thing.
I'm just telling you from a department head, from my department, the rare times, but there has been several times I communicated with him. He's always made time for me. Today, he felt bad today. I stopped by his office just to check in. I was walking by and he followed up with me later. He was leaving for a meeting, I think a meeting with the police chief. He followed up with me later today to say, hey, sorry I missed you. Did you have something important to go over? So I'm just talking to my department, so I can tell you that he does communicate well with me. He puts his foot down when he needs to. But
Gary, I can appreciate that. And not one thing I said was about how he communicates with any of you guys. Okay? It's the way he's communicating with me.
yeah,
Right?
I
And that's
have
piss
no.
poor.
I
don't like it. I don't like the way it works. It's not designed to be behind doors. We don't have any idea what's going on. That's why I'm jacked up right now.
Can I speak on that?
Sure.
So, and this is only my opinion, and only because I've sat in this role before, and I've worked with many city managers, and the communication is not out of disrespect. The communication is that of anyone who's running a company, CEO, privately, publicly, however you look at it. There has to be a level of chain of command in any aspect, even it being a paramilitary organization, a full military organization, or even just a private, public, commercial business. You have to have that chain of command so that way the communication between staff and that role model, either it being a city manager or CEO, needs to be established. Now, I've always learned, like I said, this is only my opinion, and I'm not defending this either way. I'm just expressing what in my role as doing this before is that the relationship with the city manager and council is grand vision, is what the grand vision of what the city needs to encompass, what your needs and wants are from your constituents, and bringing that to fruition. And that's what the city manager works with council to perform. These conversations that we're having now about aspects about budget reports and finance, those are for him to deal with and work those out because you put that person in charge of those operations of making sure that each department head is performing their duties as they need to be. If they're not doing those duties as they need to be, then that person takes those actions. That the responsibility of that city manager is not to come with you about those operations and how they're going on. They're to sit with you and talk about the agenda items that we sit here and work on, and that we have been working on since he's been aboard, about grand vision, working on plans like the incentive program, working on grants like branding and wayfinding, the median project, the endless grant projects that we're working on, a firehouse, a water plant, things that are going to cost us millions and millions of dollars, that your aspect and what your ideals and the relationship that you have in your constituents falls into place. Just to put out a little bit of fire here, our bills are still being paid. Our payroll is still going forward. The budget was set at the millage rate that it was set at, and that's the budget that we're working at. The problem, what we have is closing months that have gone on through our budget. So we're up from October to now, and right now CLA is in that process of closing those months out. There is no risk. It's not that we're missing any or anything. We're looking into how we can close these months out because of how the finance director was performing his duties. So now we have this third-party consultant that we've had a relationship for several finance directors who I trust implicitly doing those actions now. But the finances of the city are no different than when they were in the beginning. It's just we have seen a pattern. This pattern was brought up to Don in the very beginning. Several department heads went to him and explained this, but I speak for him. I would not make a decision until I've had time to assess the situation. I would not just go by if this guy has a gripe with him or this person has a gripe with him. I would assess the entire situation. I would take my input from council if they had input about certain situations. I would take the input from my department heads. And then, of course, I would see what is going on with that department head. I would task him with certain things, tell him things that have to be done, and see where that lies, and then make that decision. I personally think that he allowed the ample amount of time to see if we can close this out. We did bring CLA aboard to assist the finance director to begin the process of closing months out, to complete the audit that was over 285 days late, which has penalized us as far as our 1% tax incentive that we've now lost. But that audit has now been done. We're now focusing on the new audit with a new auditing firm. And then we're also, like I said, our bills are being paid, our payroll is still moving forward, and business is still being conducted, obviously through the agenda and our consent agenda and other and other policies. So the communication with council is about, in my opinion, is about working on the grand project, working on what's going on with the city itself, constituent needs, ideas like that. For a person sitting in that chair, not having those department heads not talk to the city manager first, and the city manager talking to them, and then offset talking to council is a break in communication. It's they're and this is not, he's not the first person that has done this. This is many city managers have tried to build that relationship to where the city manager works. The city manager basically relays with council. And then if there's an issue with the department head, then the city manager will relay those to the department head. So
It's always been either carbon copy to the city manager if you talk to any department that he wants to know. If you're talking to any department, he needs to know all the correspondence the council to any department head. Every city manager we've had that I've dealt with has told me that.
yes, and if the city manager, if Don wants to extend and maybe work that out with you guys, if you guys really have that concern, I'm sure that he's more than willing to work that out. I think we can he could probably do some sort of more, work out some sort of communication gap and work on that. But speaking on just historical, on the multiple city managers that have sat in that chair, they love the funnel. They need that funnel of information between them just getting the information from council, and they relay it to the department heads, and then the department heads relay it to the city manager, and then they reply back to council. I mean, that's been a historical relationship that I've seen. No matter what personality has sat up in that chair.
I'm gonna jump in, okay, just to level set things on that particular thing. And I can go back, whatever. This was part of when I get my chance to talk, but I want to do it now because we're on that subject. So in the powers and duties of city manager, which is section 302 of the charter, item J is provide staff support services for the mayor and council members. Okay, I'm going to jump down to item M, which is a couple below that. Make such recommendations to the council as the manager deems necessary or expedient in the interest of the city relating to the adoption of orders and resolutions, provided that nothing herein contained shall prevent the city council in exercising its legislative functions and powers from calling in a consultation of the boards or departments or other officers or employees of the city wherever, in the judgment of the council, it may be necessary. And this is the important thing that I think it's lost in the translation a lot with folks. Neither the council nor any member shall interfere with the conduct of any department officer or an employee in the discharge of his or her duty. So those two provisions within the charter talk about council communications with staff, okay? And I'm going to lean back towards item J, provide staff support services for the mayor and council members. Now, city managers sometimes, and most times, ask that all communications go through them. But that's not a charter rule. That's the city manager's preference. Okay. And so if you, and this is the problem that I have that I was going to bring up, is that there was a directive given to staff not to take calls from the mayor and council. Okay. That should not be in place. Okay. And the reason behind it is not because the mayor and council is trying to circumvent you or anything like that. We have responsibilities in policy decisions and all that, and we represent residents, and there are times when we can't necessarily get a hold of city manager, whether it be you or anybody else. I'll give you a specific example. I was out in the field, and Mike Faraz was lifting houses. He had a question for me. He said, "Is the building official still work for the city?" I didn't know the answer to that because, and I'll even skip ahead to something else. I didn't know the HR person left, which is another problem. We had some people leave the city, and there was no email to let council know that, hey, we had a staff leave, a department head leave. And so when I was asked a question, I thought, well, let me find out, because he had to make a change to his plan or whatever. And so I called you. Of course, you didn't answer, and I don't expect you to answer any city manager answer, because you could be in a meeting or what have you. But at that point, I'm with the customer, and I should be able to reach out to the building department, which I did. I called Veronica to see, and the only question I had was, does Tony still work for the city? Because I didn't get any email saying otherwise, so I'm assuming he did. He had an issue, and I can't remember if Veronica answered or not. I don't think she did. I know that staff, I think in general, is afraid to answer the phone if the mayor or council calls, because if they give us directive, they're going to get in trouble. And it should be like that, because you're blocking communication for things we need. Now, our request should only be informational in nature. Never would we call and say, hey, drop everything you're doing and get this report from me. That's a clear violation. But if we need information for whatever reason, there should be no issue with reaching out to the people who's going to provide the information, because at the end of the day, all it's going to do is tie you up to feed that, to take that request from us, to get with that person, to get that answer back to us, and that takes time away from you. When we could have just called directly to them and got the information we need, and it's not a good way to do business. Again, I think it's a violation of the charter to put that kind of directive in place to cut us off from information gathering if we need that. So that's that part of it. Again, you don't want council and the mayor constantly inundating staff with these things. There needs to be certain things. But again, I think that the problem is to shut that down completely when we can't get a hold of you. And again, that's not your fault. I know you're in here when you're in here working your butt off. I have no doubt. I've been through several city managers. I know and Sal can speak for it. It's a lot of work. It's an insane amount of work, and so you're not going to be able to answer every call. But we can't be hamstrung doing our job because of that.
Or if it's personal.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Or if it's personal, you have a personal resident
Yeah.
problem for yourself.
My second, and I'm gonna leave this in here too. My second example of that is, I am a resident. I have a business. I have property in the city, and I have to interact with the building department. I had an issue with my building permit. I don't need to go to you to do that. Just like any other resident. Just because I get elected as mayor doesn't take away my rights as a citizen to deal with the city and its employees. And so when I reach out to Veronica and she doesn't answer my call because she's afraid that she's going to get in trouble, and I'm trying to do business with the city, there's a problem there. So that's, I wanted to make that clear. And I know I had this conversation with you before, and that my understanding is that directive is still brought up time and time again. Don't do that. And so I guess I would have heard when I talked about that directive needs to be reversed, in my opinion. And and staff needs to understand that if the mayor or council reaches out to you, they're just another resident, or they're just needing information. You're not to drop whatever you're doing. Take the request and say, hey, I'm in the middle of something now. I'm going to need a day or an hour or whatever, and just give us the information. And they can, we can leave you a text saying, hey, I couldn't get a hold of you, and I had to reach out to Gary directly on something, and there needs to be a relationship here. It's not just us sitting up here in the city and there's that big disconnect, because we're not going to be successful if we operate like that. Okay, so that's feedback on that. So, did you have anything else that you wanted to go on? I just want to cover that kind of in its entirety there.
It's just my opinion. It's just, just me expressing. Just on what his side, and like I said, previous people have sat there. Like I said, it's not out of disrespect. This is not out of like when he lays a mandate down. You're looking at it as like it's a concern of miscommunication with you. On the other hand, he's looking at communication through his staff. When the person is sitting in that role, that's there's more there's more method to the madness, so to speak. They're looking into so many different aspects. It's not just I don't want you to talk to Cat. There could be reasons behind that, and that's what the city manager sitting in that role is looking for. That I just want to express that and be open to that, because, like I said, I've been in that position before. So, and I've worked with several city managers who wanted that funnel of communication because it helped them perform and do their job. It's to do their job better. It's not out of any type of segregation to a person on purpose or anything like that. It's funneling the communication so they can perform their job better.
Yeah,
If we can modify that, if he can modify that, that's and something that would be up to him, the city manager and council. If we have to modify that, but like I said, everything is possible. There's no absolutes, and we can work on. He can work on that, and staff will work with the city manager and whatever we got to do. Once again, you got to remember, and also remember this: when you say that you talk to a member of staff as, "Hey, we're just citizens of Port Richey," staff doesn't see you as that.
But you should.
Well, staff sees you as the boss's boss.
I talk to him, no problem.
Which is exactly what you are.
You can step right in, and that one's easily remedied just by saying, "Hi, Ashley, it's Christine. This is a personal issue," and then you move right past it. This is a private matter, for me, so that she would know that you're not calling about city business, and you just immediately, thwart that problem.
Don, did you know I pulled a roofing permit? No. I called up and pulled a roofing permit, talked to Tony about what I was doing, did my job, called up Tony's schedule. He came out and did the inspection and everything. I went to the office and paid, got the permit, but no problem. I didn't have to go through Don or nobody. I talked to Sal, I dealt with the Gary Fire Department.
In person, right? You came in person.
Well, I called him on the phone and I asked for Tony. Tony called me back and told him what I was doing and getting a permit. He told me, what to do. And I came and talked to the kid in there, the new kid, I guess, and did it. Gary had asked me to help him with certain things on the boat. He just told him I'm helping him. So I worked with him and Dave and Tom to take care of that project. He wasn't involved. And I've been able to talk to staff or anybody or Ashley, but no problem. He's always returned my calls. I can email him. Like to get with you. What is a good day? What's a good time? He gets back to me and tells me when. Or gives me options, and we work it out. And I've been able to sit down and talk to them. So if you got issues, that's what I would recommend. Sit down one-on-one with them, tell them your issues, and work it out.
Unfortunately for everybody else, I probably have the most communication with Councilman Hubbard because he's always here. I mean, always, which is good. I mean, I wish I had more visits from more council members. I just think it's just a work on transparency that I need to work on, and I'll fix that relationship.
He may be used to doing certain things one way, and you're used to another way. But between Matt and Andy was a nightmare. I didn't hear shit from anybody in here about him, and he was a nightmare. And he was a nightmare because he lied about stuff all the time. But he's probably one of the best city managers we've had, as far as I'm concerned. And from what I've heard from different staff members, and I understand you have an issue, I would suggest make an appointment with him, sit down and talk to him about it and work it out, because he'll do it.
And I know you kind of got cut off. Did you have anything else? Did you want?
No, I just wanted to say that I think that's an easy workaround for getting a hold of staff. I'm sure I've had to call about something, but and I haven't run into any problems, but I just think that by announcing what it is that you're you know, that it is a personal matter to you that could easily get.
But they have to answer the phone. They can't just say, I mean, I've got a return text saying,
I didn't
sorry, I
realize
don't get in
they don't
trouble.
answer the phone.
So I can't talk
Why?
to you.
Because they see the number?
I say, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
I mean, it's just out there. So public comment, just so you know, going to finish up up here, then I've got a sign-up sheet, you get time. So, did you have anything else? Because you kind of got wrapped around.
No, that I just wanted to
Okay.
say that. Yeah.
Did you have anything you want to add before I get to mine? Okay. I'm gonna run through just a few things I have. That says most of this, not most, but a couple of things have been taken care of. But I'll say I have as well had communication issues. Not always, but there are times that I've sent a text and it's not been answered at all. I give a recent one. And this is somewhat personal, but it's business related because it's a city resident that was expecting communication. Obviously Don's looking for a place here in the city. I met a lady that had a rental property, introduced those to Don. You gave her the impression that you were going to get back with her on a Monday about that. I saw her again afterwards, and she said, "Hey, what's going on with Don?" He had got back to me. Of course, I didn't know, and so I sent a text to you asking about if you could reach out to her, just let her know if you're not interested anymore or whatever, so she's not waiting on you. And I didn't get a response. I don't know if you talked to her or not to this day. I didn't get a response, so that's just an example there, and that's leaving a resident hanging out there. This is not a good look. I've had other feedback from residents, similar type thing. So there are times where you get back and you get back very quickly. There are times it may not get back at all. So that's some issues I have. So I've covered the directing staff about the not speak with us. On annexation, and as I look through the thing, annexation is a big thing. You've made it very clear that you're working on a plan or whatever. That was one of the main. Matter of fact, one of the most important things in your background with Kansas City, especially as you were there, you were going to have annexation was going to be a thing, and they kind of shut it all down. That was really attracted to me that you kind of had that experience and was going to bring that. I know when Andy was here, we'd started that. It was so far as the building department, they had a brochure put together. Went through planning and zoning, and that we was at the point, my understanding, that was going to go out. We're going to start having these meetings here, and then the transition came. And since you've taken the job, the last time planning and zoning has met, which is our annexation board, which would need to be engaged in that process, or should be engaged in that process, they haven't met since November 12th. So they haven't even met since you've been on staff. Okay. So that's kind of a concern.
I've been in constant engagement with the city planning team and everything.
Yeah, I know you've been working.
And as far as Andy having a plan, I'm not sure what plan he had.
Right.
Because the conversations I have with Tammy, I'm having with Tammy and everything is there's nothing existing, and we're generating from the ground up right now.
Yeah.
Not only that, because there was nothing in place. I don't know if there was.
Yeah, the only thing that was in place, and I think it may have been at that November 12th meeting when they reviewed that flyer that they put together. I think it went through a couple of things. Do you remember that, Sal? Were you involved in that flyer at all? Veronica was, I think.
Veronica and both the planners.
Yeah. So there's a flyer, an annexation flyer that explains the benefits and all that was put together. And the goal, we talked about that in that planning and zoning meeting, is that we need to, and this would be part of the plan he did put together, but basically figure out a radius that you want to invite those businesses in, based on that, give that flyer, and bring her to City Hall and have that conversation and try to actually start an effort. So just obviously, I know you've been working on it from another angle, and I'm going to get another comment on that here in just a second. But the fact that the planning and zoning board hasn't met, as they haven't had P&Z stuff, but they definitely should be involved in some annexation discussions because they are the annexation board for the city. So I can't see why they haven't met January, February, March. So that's some feedback there. Another thing on annexation is we had a willing participant in the city that's been a willing participant back even when Andy was here, and Andy kind of ruined that, and he went off. He'd come back to the table because they were excited about you being on board or whatever, and they have since changed gears as well, and it was very accretive to the city's bottom line with those industrial areas over there, and blown off whatever. Again, I know that there's always two sides to every story. People get busy, have other things, but again, left a bad taste in that resident's mouth, and now they're, they're not interested in doing that anymore. And that's unfortunate. So, there's a failure to launch on that. I know like I said, I know you're working on it or whatever. And I'm going to go one step further. I mentioned there's a property that the city actually owns. I mean, we actually own the property. It's down by our well fields. It's parcel 3325160070 055000010. It is a big lot on the backside of Candlelight Lantern. The city owns it. It's not in the city. And I brought that up. That there's nothing easier to annex than property you own yourself inside your city along your boundaries, and I don't know why that's still showing that way. And I gave that to Andy, so I didn't tell you about that, but I would expect, because I thought Veronica actually was working on doing that, and so in that transition period when you came in, I would have thought that would have been something that had been finished up. So there's a gap there. But so failure loss on the annexation stuff so far. My meetings, since I've been elected 3 years ago now, I've always had Friday lunches with the city manager. That's my set time when we can catch up. And sometimes we don't have anything. It's just a nice time to have lunch and chat or whatever and maintain a relationship. It's not necessarily about city business, but it's just maintain a relationship as a council member. And I would encourage every council member to have at least once every 2 weeks a time where you get together and let's just lunch, just to have, because you got to build a relationship. We have to have a relationship. I can't stress that enough. If you don't have a relationship, it's not going to be a successful joining. So I've had, I think, 2 or 3 with you now.
More than that.
About 3, I think.
Well, we've had at least 5 that
we've met, but we did, and so
some of them we had to defer because I was in.
exactly. So again, I'm not, like I said, I don't want to split hairs over whatever, but it's definitely a lot less than I've ever had before. So we need to get that on track, obviously. I want to cover this, and this is extremely disturbing. On April 16th, a Thursday, I believe I called and I didn't get an answer. And so I was in the air, so I just figured I'd stop in to possibly catch it. And the reason for that is I sit on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and I have a free. I'm also on the coalition committee for resiliency, and they have that the resiliency conference coming up, and it's a free conference fee. It's a free 2-night hotel for the attendee. They give it because I'm on the board, and I can't do that because I got another commitment. And so I wanted to make sure that we had somebody from staff taking advantage of that and representing us there. And so I stopped in to find out if that was who you want to do. At the time, I thought it was going to be Derek, but he's obviously he's tendered his resignation as of the 13th, so he's not going to be able to do it again. We didn't hear that. I mean, I heard it when I came in the office to talk about it later on.
I didn't know about it either.
I
didn't know about
Has
it.
council got an email on that?
No.
So that's a problem too. The same thing with the HR. They communicate. It's all communication. You got to have that. That's a core. But anyway, when I stopped in on 4/16, Sal was here and you weren't, and I'd asked about that, and he said, "Oh, he took Thursday and Friday off." And I said, "He did." And Sal said, "You didn't know that?" I said, "No, I had no idea." And so, not a big deal, right? I mean, I know you work hard, you need your time or whatever. It is a big deal that you can't jump a simple email to the council saying, "Hey, I'm taking off Thursday and Friday. Sal's in charge." That's the most important thing. We know who's in charge when you're not here. And I even purposely didn't reach out about it because I know we had a standing lunch on that Friday. And I thought, well, maybe he'll reach out and let me know that he's off and not going to be at my lunch. And I never heard from you. So that's on the calendar. So that's concerning. Of course, I mentioned HR resigned. We weren't briefed about it. I actually found out that relatively soon after it happened through, I can't remember who told me, but I think I purposely waited to see if I ever saw any kind of email come out, whatever. I think you did mention it in passing a couple, 3 weeks after she'd already left that finally it flowed. And I don't know, there was never anything sent out to the council, I believe, on HR director. Did you guys get anything? I didn't. So, and then finally, and I'm going to give Nancy a second here too. So communication overall theme definitely needs some serious overhaul. These things are are super concerning because there's a lot of risk to the city. And is it okay to talk about some of these things, I guess, or?
Depends on what it is.
Um,
I mean, our communications are privileged, so I don't need, if you want to share something.
Okay, I think some of these things that you're going to talk about, you're aware of, they're being fixed, so it's, okay. I think it's important to bring these out. So,
Question I will answer.
okay. Choke me.
Yeah.
So the PBA negotiations are going on, okay? And it's my understanding that there was a meeting set up that in by statute or whatever it is, we have to notice that in order for negotiations to happen within that meeting. The attorney couldn't be there, or somebody couldn't be there that needed to be there. And I think, Don, you'd wanted to actually have that meeting just as a meet and greet, just kind of meet to the
It was
parties.
just supposed to be a meet and greet.
Right.
Surprised out of nowhere with the fact that it wasn't a meet and greet.
Right. So the understanding is that there was actually negotiations that happened during that should not have happened. It was more than a meet and greet, and there was some. And I'll let you elaborate on.
And
Don't elaborate.
yeah, no, I can say I'm not the attorney that was part of that.
We just
Obviously,
listened.
yeah, I was not part of it. I just know that it was recommended by the attorney in my office that be canceled because the notice was not correct, so the negotiation could not take place. He was informed that it would just be a meet and greet. He was later informed by the PBA that it was not a meet and greet, which of course violates the statute. It's been fixed. Things have moved on. They had negotiations.
I see another meeting was scheduled. I think it's.
That was today for a couple hours.
We've
They've
been
working through it.
formalizing the process because, like I said, it was potentially a meet and greet. All the conversations, the emails back and forth was a meet and greet. There was no PBA negotiations that were supposed to occur. So when it popped open like that, I was very surprised. At that point, I was like, okay. And I was told, hey, just listen. Don't agree to nothing. I'm like, Roger that. That's
Well,
what we do.
I think that point, I'm assuming if I'm in this position, I'm doing that, that's the time to shut it down. The meeting's over. So, again, that's some risks there. It's being fixed, not an issue, but obviously concern. If it was a one-off, that'd be one thing, but there seems to be a pattern here is kind of what I'm going to show. And so, I don't know a whole lot about this one, and I don't know how much you know. I talked to Attorney Eschenfeld regarding Section 125 plan stuff. Evidently that it was phrased that you kind of ran off, kind of did your own thing, spent more money than needed to be on this particular plan. Or again, I'm not sure exactly the details of it, but there was a cost involved that you kind of did. It probably could have been a lot cheaper and a lot better. What we have that we're stuck with is workable, and that's being worked out now. But it was just it was kind of going off and doing all the thing without having legal involved at the beginning.
I didn't do that at all. That's what was presented to me, and I took it to legal. And I said, hey, I've been presented with a cafeteria 125 plan. What is the legal position on this? Because I said, I've got a contract that looks like it was done at a legal doc on something that I'm not aware of on
Who brought it to you?
HR.
So some that Rhonda, I guess, put together.
Rhonda put together.
What was the cost factor they talked
I
about?
have no idea what the cost factor was.
You don't
I
know
was
about that?
I was never provided that data on
I
that.
will add, if I may, I'd mentioned this to you that when you came on, I did get the email. This is what he was given. This is the plan I was given.
Okay, well, maybe Rob might be mistaken on
He may
that.
have misunderstood.
And I was like,
and that's when
what do I do with this?
Yeah,
and so that's
when I
where I
connected
got
with
with the HR
Okay.
and finance director. I
Well,
said,
that-
I need that this isn't how we do business. I said, I need you to relook this process, and we had scheduled meetings to go through the whole process, to go through the resolutions and through the agreement, because I've never contracted out a separate agreement for anything other than what legal counsel provides us as
Yeah,
far as.
and I
what we
don't
should
remember
do.
anything coming to us about it either. Too.
Well, that's because we've been dealing with this. I've been dealing with this problem
It's
with
coming.
Rob.
I believe it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming because we've been trying to resolve this problem because it's something that's like, well, hey, this is out of nowhere. Why did this occur? Why is this here? Why did we choose this route? And whose decision was this to move forward? Because it was nothing. It was never patched before me. Maybe a previous city manager, but
Okay.
this surprised me when I found out.
All right, I appreciate that. So that's good to know then. And the last thing, there was another issue with the trailer park off of Limit, and I have to rely on you to.
I can tell you that a notice was put out with a time limit. I don't know who put the time limit, like get out in 10 days kind of time limit. I don't know who put that notice out there. But that was something that had been discussed that we cannot proceed that way. We don't know who's responsible for it. I know it caused a problem and we're trying to work through that right now.
Okay. And obviously, the responsibility, but as you say,
Well,
it rests on you.
it's always my responsibility, but what had happened is, we had trailers that were condemned after the hurricane that were red tagged, that they were to be destroyed. They were supposed to be, I guess, what's the term I'm looking for?
They need to go through a slum and blight process,
Right.
but we do not know who owns them, so we cannot do it.
Right.
We're trying
But we started last July
avenues.
in the process on this.
To get access to them.
Yeah, and
to
we
find
had,
the name.
and we had no other method, and so we went to go back out and red tag them again. Unfortunately, when we red tagged them, my building inspector put a notice on there, you need to be out in 10 days. And so that was like, whoops. And so what did I do? I immediately went into damage control with everybody, even with the lawyers, with Nancy, and saying, hey, we need to fix this. And we realigned ourselves with the residents, said, hey, sorry, bad communication. I take full responsibility that we pushed that out there. Communication that I didn't tell them to do. I said, yeah, if you want to red tag them again, because they've been red tagged, because we have people moving back into these, and I'm worried about safety, and they're starting to plug these things back in that aren't even habitable. I'm worried about building fire, somebody catching on fire, and somebody passing away. So I'm trying to protect residents from endangering themselves. So I said, yes, go out there and red tag them. I didn't know that we'd put a 10-day eviction notice on it. So that was like, whoops, we need to fix this. I got all kinds of emails from the world, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm up to the plate. Let me rectify and fix this. Called the lawyer, said, hey, what direction do we need to go? What do I need to do? We got a problem here. I need to solve it. I need help. So how do I solve this so that I can mitigate it, at my level, so that we can control, manage, and do what the residents need. And we've reached back out. We've got an appropriate meeting with them, I guess, next week.
I think it's to be determined still.
To be determined.
I think they're still waiting to hear from.
And in the process, we're looking at solutions for them and how people can help them even to rehab what potentially may be rehabable and getting them grant money. I mean, it was failure of communication on our part. I take the full hit for that. I had no idea. But like I said, I own it. And I'll own everything.
Yeah. And the last thing, and then I ask council what the path is obviously the attorney issue is paramount. And I know you expressed to me that you wanted a new attorney. Obviously, the attorney reports to the council. You report to the council. Nancy's been with us for 3 years now. We're just renewing the contract for another 3, I think it is. To my knowledge, and I've been pretty involved. Never been really any issues with any other city managers and Nancy, staff and Nancy. Even me and other council members, I don't think have any issues. Now I have had some issues with Nancy. This is Kim. No, Nancy to me is great. She's so I don't know what that problem is, and so I want to give Nancy the opportunity to talk about, I guess, her engagement with you. My understanding is it's been better as of late, but there was a time when it was non-existent, right?
There was I'll start with every, like Don's already alluded to, different city managers need different updates and processes to control and track what they're doing. Here in this particular city, prior weekly meetings with city managers, all 3 of them that I've had, 4, including our interim, usually weekly meetings. We started that, not something that Don wants right now or whatever, with no conversation. It just, I would show up and he wasn't there, and I stopped showing up because obviously he didn't want to have those, which again, fine, don't need them, that's fine. Just kind of helps you keep track of things and figure out where things are. But I can say if I may, when you called me and we started talking about some issues you were having, I did convey that I was not getting responses to emails, and I did make me calls because I wasn't getting email responses.
And the problem that I had with that is I guess previous city manager put an entirely separate email chain in the receipt inbox that I had no idea how to find.
These were after that.
Yeah.
After and early on the issue was
So
was
our
the
miscommunication is dragged me to prove for the simple fact that she is communicating with me because I found the file folder that now at 64 unread messages, because it doesn't go into my inbox. It goes into a drop-down folder, and I'm like, man, I'm not getting any communication. This is not going to work. I can't work like this. And then it was like, and then I came up on the radio and said, well, on the phone, I said, Nancy, I found your emails. Yes, we are communicating. I apologize that I wasn't getting your stuff. And that's why I hate taking somebody else's inbox. It's a mess. And I'm managing 3 different subset letdowns, whereas I just can't manage my inbox. And it's not something I can manage from my phone, which is a disappointment.
Anything else?
I mean, I'm only as involved as you guys need me to be, but if I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So,
Well, again, theme, communication, even with the lawyer, council, residents. So with that, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about before I want to get some public comment.
I may want to comment after this.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're
Right,
going to bring back council, but I wanted to open up, is this a good time for public comment?
Yeah, it is.
So I do have a sign up.
Well,
And
I would like to just ask, is everything good now between you two? You're
I've never had an issue.
so you're
Working with them.
comfortable working together and
It
you're
was that communication gap where I had reached the point of frustration. It's like, I'm not getting communication. And I did realize that I was getting it. I just never had it because I didn't know that it was there.
okay.
And
so-
I'll say in the future, for some reason you think that's happening, you have my cell phone.
Yeah, and we called. Like I called her, was it today or yesterday? I was like, I meant to text you, but I
Yep.
dialed you. And
Yep.
since we're on, let's have a conversation. So we've been talking about. We met today and had a good conversation about stuff. So we're on the right path.
that's good to hear.
It's just there was a point of frustration for me that I didn't think I was getting communication, and I totally was. I just didn't see it. My fault.
Public comment. I've got one sign up. Richard Shepard. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, good night.
And I apologize. But we appreciate you sticking it out.
My name is Richard Shepard. I live at 7651 Navigator Court. After hearing everything I've heard tonight, I try not to make this personal, but I believe you're full of hot air.
You're what?
And I'll tell you why.
I'm sorry. What? I didn't hear that. What?
I said I feel like you're full of hot air, and I'll tell you why.
That's fine.
Back, as most of y'all know, after the hurricane, I had major damage to my house. And some of you guys have been out to my house, some haven't, but I've talked to most of y'all. After 45 days of begging the city manager to come to my house and look at my damage for himself without looking at paper or pictures, he finally, after 45 days, said he would. So when he comes out to my house, and this is my opinion, one, he was unprofessional. He used foul language in our 1 hour meet. He said the F word several times in general conversation. He made disparaging comments about the mayor and the city council members to me as a citizen. He also told me that he had been communicating with Dan Gudis, who was in charge of Swift Bud investigations, and he had one opinion, the city manager, saying that Swift Bud says we can't do this, we can't do this. I talked to the Swift Bud investigator. He says, I never told him that. He goes, for a matter of fact, I want to set up a meeting where I can come out there, so when he says it to my face, I can tell him I never said that. As we go on, he comes up, he's talking to me like he's my friend for an hour. So I try to be nice to him. He tells me at the end of our conversation that he recommends that I file a civil suit against my HOA, the city of Port Richey, and SwiftMud. I couldn't figure out why in the world a city manager would tell a citizen to sue the city. So he goes on to say, it'll get the city council's attention and they'll force me to come out here and fix your problem. That was his response to me. So, if I can remember right, at the end of our discussion, I asked the city manager if he was going to stay with the city of Port Richey. He looked me in the eye, he hesitated, and said nothing. So, it's kind of bothers me as to what his intent is with the city. Is he really representing the city's citizens of Port Richey, or is he representing himself? To me, the city manager is supposed to work for the citizens of Port Richey. I don't think he does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Somebody say that?
Public Works Director wants to talk.
Yes, I'm saying?
Am I allowed to elaborate on that?
I would not.
Okay.
I would not highly recommend not that topic.
So Hans, anybody else?
I don't want to limit you, but I wouldn't talk.
Yeah, did you
about
want to
that.
did you comment?
I mean, it's a public comment, not a public conversation, but that's a topic that could into litigation.
I'm astounded. I have a lack of words to say. I know I've been up there several times. I've walked the background. I've done everything. I've communicated constantly with the lawyer on what our solution process is to this. She's given me the solution process. I've provided him with everything that we can possibly do, and it's just not good enough. And I apologize that it's not good enough. And I've talked with Dan Golis, and we did have that conversation. I asked him, what do I have to do? Because I've been in a situation before with an HOA, condominium HOA, where they had a problem. And I said, somebody owns the problem. Who owns it? If I have something to do, I want to know what I have to do so that I can do it. But if I don't have something to do, like with previous engagements with Pinellas County, I don't want to get involved in something where I'm gonna violate something with somebody. I said, I'm just not going to do it. And I said, I'm not going to get involved until a decision's made, because what I've been told from all the paperwork, all the investigations, all the legal counsel, and all the engagements back and forth is that this is not a problem for the city to solve, and it's not within our scope to solve. It's a HOA resident issue. And not only that, SwiftBud, when they spoke to me, it's like, well, and I've got emails back and forth that, hey, yeah, we'll take, and they took his information, and you were involved with all the discussions back and forth. And I've talked to you many times about this, and I said, I want to keep our communication on paper so that facts are related. And I know this discussion will blow up at some point where we have an incident like this, but I want to make sure that my facts are captured. So when we have the discussions, you know everything that I've said, written and documented. So if there's allegations made, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and I've talked to you about it, and I've talked to you about my frustrations with the whole process. It's not that I have anything against Mr. Shepard. There's just nothing I can provide him. There's no solution I can provide him. And when I give him the information, it's just not good enough. I know nothing I do for him is not going to be good enough because he's got a problem set that I can't solve, that he wants me to solve. He wants you to solve. If I could solve it, I would have solved it. But the problem is I can't. And I don't want to create a bigger problem for the residents around that problem set that currently exists. And from an attorney's perspective, I've kept my distance with the appropriate communications based on what the legal parameters of the situation are. And I've been diligent with the lawyer on this, and she'll tell you. And if I'm wrong, Nancy,
I'm shaking my head. The legal issue is he's handling it correctly.
Yeah.
and the fact that I would treat a resident that way, I've spoke with many of the residents out here that I communicate with. Do I treat you that way when I meet with you? If I just find it hard that I would be that way with a resident that is so close to you to even want to even let my inner demon, if I had one, come out. It would be stupid. I'm not a stupid human being. I just find the allegation, to me, he wants to say what he wants to say. It's preposterous. And I'm not going to do anything illegal, immoral, unethical. Those are my lines in the sand. I will never cross them. And my relationship to the community is to do the best I can for them, meet with them where I can, do what I can for them. But if I can't do something for you, I can't.
Yeah. And
if it makes you mad, I'm sorry. But I'm at the limit of what I can do. I'm going out there on the 11th to sit with them, and I'll meet, and I'll have that conversation with Dan Golis that we just spoke about. I'm swearing. In private conversation, I may swear, but I'm not going to swear out in public doing this and that. It's just not appropriate for me as a representative. Those of you I met, if I swore, I'm just asking in general for people. Do I swear? Come on, Adam.
You never swore at me. But you never swore at me.
So,
I mean, even in my day-to-day conversation, I just don't understand.
yeah, well, that aside, and again, all the other things aside, 'cause
But I understand the frustration. I truly appreciate Mr. Shepard's frustration, and I guess if it manifests this way, okay, I apologize. I apologize to you guys if it's manifested this way in public this way, but it's a manifestation that I can't control over a problem set that I have no responsibility or control over.
I'll corroborate one part of the thing that I'm aware of is as far as the meeting goes. I don't know the time frames of it, but
I don't think I've been out there with him personally, but I've been all over his property. I've
right.
walked. All of it.
Because I know I left that comment. He wants a personal meeting on site, not in
Right.
at his private. So there was some issue there. So I will corroborate that. The only thing, all the other stuff, I know you've worked on and you've had. So well, that's good. The one thing that I heard here is that there was disparaging comments made about council. Are you denying that, or is that?
I deny that.
Okay.
I mean, why? What purpose would that serve?
I would have no idea.
That would be the dumbest thing a city manager would do. Even if he was stupid.
I'm not going to have a hearing here. I just want to hear.
Hey,
I just want to hear from you.
yes,
What's your,
I'm at a loss for words.
Okay.
I am. I truly am. And hey. Okay.
Good. Any other public comment? Oh, here they come. Linda?
Linda Rodriguez, 5917 Lantern Court. First, I want to say, Chris, I'm sorry that you've had that communication problem with Don. As a resident, I have not had that problem. I have contacted him via text. I know he prefers email. I don't.
Helps. Absolutely.
But he has contacted me and gotten back with me every single time I have spoken with him, and I have physically met with him 3 times since he has come. One time was with Andy, and two times, maybe 3, I don't remember, but a couple other times after that. I've had no problems with communication with him. When I call him, he has called me back. This is a 90-day evaluation. This isn't a hanging. This is a 90-day evaluation. In that 90 days, he has had 74 work days. What has he done in 74 days? You've got new signs coming. You've got new medians coming. You've got a magistrate coming. Fill in the blanks. What has he done in 74 days? That is a lot. You've sat up there for 3 years. Have you been able to do any of that, all that in 3 years? No.
Not quite a bit, actually.
In 74 days, he has done a lot. If there's problems in communication, that needs to be handled, I think, on a personal level. I think, absolutely, he's got his knickers in a twist because he's trying to clean up stuff. I met with him and Andy the first day. I'm sorry, Adam. When there was an agenda item about the boat, Adam got up and said how horrible the finances were in the city. I went to Andy and Don a week later. I said, the sky is falling. What is going on? We're $1.4 million we've lost. There's no money in revenue. Nobody said that up here. I waited. Nobody said it. I went, did I not come to you, Don and Andy, at the same time?
Yes.
It was horrible. The finances were in a shambles, is what we were told. He was not, and was not against the boat, but we had to take $200,000 out of buying property and $70,000 out of someplace else to balance the budget. That you remember that, Chris? I remember you sitting here. It was all happened. I went to the 2 of them. Andy said, at the end of the quarter, Adam will come up and give a financial report for the quarter. I waited very patiently, and it came. The financial report came out, and it was wonderful. We're the best. Newport Richie and Zephyr Hills, we're better than them. We did great. I went back to Don. I said, well, first, Chicken Little, the sky was falling, and now it's rainbows and unicorns. What's going on? Big disparity. I did speak to Adam about this as well, and he explained it to me. Can I go? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Make quick.
I will. My thing is, this is a 90-day evaluation. He's had 74 days. He has done a lot in that 74 days. I think you need to give the man a chance. This is new position, and I don't think you're really giving him a fair shot at it. He is not sitting around on his hands. He is working for you guys. If there are tweaks that need to be done, discuss it with him. Be an adult and a professional and have that discussion. This is a 90-day evaluation, not a hanging, please. You've got a manager that is working very hard. I just think you need to work with him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Miles?
Adam Thompson, 9421 New Pond Road, I think. I just want to clarify the cafeteria plan. It was a $200 ordeal. We did reach out to Nancy's office. They didn't do that there, so we reached out to PRM. Their people, they didn't do it either, so they were the one that sent us to this place to get this plan. So it was $200, but we were in a hurry because we were already doing that in lieu of, and it was a tax implication thing. So we try to do that. We try to do it the best we can without somebody standing beside us that knew exactly what they were doing. Second part, I did resign. First off, I appreciate you. Y'all have done a good job, and I want you to know everything I've done for what's good of the city. I mean, I didn't make any more money doing anything any which way. But I will tell you, when I left here the other day, I did sign a non-disclosure agreement saying I wouldn't disparage, and I'm not going to come up here and argue about anything that was said here tonight because I didn't even listen to it, to be honest with you. But I was offered a position as a city manager in another place, and he called me. The mayor of that city called me about what was said here, and that's why I come up here. If we're going to not disparage, let's don't disparage. And I totally understand that whatever happens after I leave is going to be my fault. It's going to be, it's just the way it is. City manager, same way. When you leave, it's going to be your fault. And maybe I didn't do things exactly the way other people would do them. It's fine. And, and that's the reason I wouldn't watch this or anything. But, whatever was said here tonight is probably going to cost me a job. And when we left, we left on very good terms, and I was fine with it. I was ready to go off into the sunset and move on about my life. But, and again, I mean, you could sit around and we can talk about what Adam did or didn't do or whatever the case may be. But, when we put it out in a public forum, it's rough, and I may have lost a job tonight because of what was said here tonight. I'm not going to argue about what was said. I mean, because that's part of what we signed, that I wouldn't do that. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and try to answer it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear any of it, just what he was telling me on the phone. But I just, again, I want to reiterate that whatever I did here, I did what I thought was good for the city. And, when I got hired, when Matt hired me, he gave me, he gave me a path to go down. He told me what he wanted to do, and that's what we tried to do. Did we do it the exact way he would? No, he wasn't here very long, so I tried to do it. I tried to do what I can to save the city money, and, I did. Maybe I don't explain things exactly the way I should have or whatever the case may be, but, I work Sundays. I put my time in. It wasn't like I come in and work 30 hours a week and went home and done none of that. I mean, this is a $40 million budget. It's a huge budget for one person and a clerk. That's why we got you can go to any other city. There's not a finance director and one other person that's doing the thing. This is a lot to keep track of, to hold, to do all these things, especially when you put in the fact that you're transitioning from paper payroll to, other things. It's a lot. It was a lot for me. It was a lot for Lindsay. It was a lot for everybody. So again, I really just want to come up here and say I'm not going to leave here and disparage anything that the city has done, things that maybe I don't even care for, but I just want to say that we left here on a gentleman's agreement that we were going to be nice to each other. And I'm just afraid that what happened here is going to cost me a job. And, when you talk about what they do, it's very difficult to find a job somewhere, especially for what I do or what we do. So it's very hard. So I just wanted to say that. Again, I don't know what was said. Didn't listen to it. I wasn't planning on it. But I just think that was a really not a good thing to do, especially, I'm gonna hold up my end and I'm gonna go on about my business. But, again, everything can be my fault. The city could go bankrupt and it could be my fault. It's not going to, but if it does, I mean, you're gonna blame me. Just like when Don leaves, you're gonna blame him. Andy gets blamed, Matt gets blamed. It's just the way it is. But I thought we were in agreement that we were gonna, not bash each other. And apparently it was bad enough for someone to call me and tell me that y'all were bashing me and that we were going to have a meeting tomorrow. So that's just kind of where we're at. And, I want to leave y'all with, I hope the place blows up and gets bigger, and gets bigger. And but it gets bigger and you guys do do the plans that you're going to do, and I think that's important. And I think you got some good people in place and all that kind of stuff. I knew months ago that it wasn't going to work out. I come to Don, I'm wrapping it up. I come to Don, I told him, sometimes this doesn't work, and we knew that. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. And I'm going to hold my end of agreement, and especially if I get to keep the job that it was offered to me. Okay. But that's just kind of where we're at. I'm a little disappointed with that. Is the only thing I want to say.
Adam, I apologize. if those comments were disparaging, I was just trying to give transparency to a council that didn't feel like they were getting transparency from it. I apologize, and it sucks that it's live for the world.
Yeah.
But for transparency that they feel they're not provided, you did a fantastic job with the skill set and what you were working with, and you did work hard, and we did leave on good terms. You did everything you could for me. Unfortunately, there's a little more that I need. You know that. We had that discussion. And I do wish you the best. And I will write you a positive letter, even for that guy. If he wants to talk to me, we can have another conversation. But I think it's important that he does know that if you were given, hopefully not this position, but in your future, that yes, I've got confidence in you doing what you can for who you can.
Thank you.
And personally, I appreciate the service you provide the city. You were always, like I said, you worked hard. I saw you in here on Sundays, Saturdays. So I wish you the best of luck, and I said, appreciate your service. Thanks, Wes.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Patrick Derwinski, 4352 Kent Street, Newport Richey. Obviously, it's about Don. We own a business, 4800 Ebbtide Lane. He was out doing his evaluation in the community, introduced himself to us, turned out very well. When we talked about communication, he's given me his line before. I've texted him, he's replied back. Everything's been pretty well. It's just about some basic questions and stuff like that, and he wants to understand how we're growing and stuff to help benefit the community. I mean, it's been nothing but positive. I have a good relationship with everyone, pretty much everyone in the city department. You know, we do a lot of building, stuff like that that's going on for our end. I do see one problem, that when we get local complaints from like neighbors or whatever it may be, it has a tendency to go straight to the top, and it doesn't start from the bottom. So he gets numerous emails. I'm not going to say names. I pulled the public record, so I see it. So it's like, instead of starting down with Veronica or whoever's down in the building department, he's getting constant emails from certain individuals from the top, when it could be basic bottoms that could be handled by Veronica or someone down in that building department. So he's constantly being bothered, in my opinion, because like I said, I read the emails. I see them. So I kind of see his frustration if he doesn't reply to emails, because I've written him and he didn't reply back. I'm like, well, you know why? Because he's getting bombarded from the community when he's trying to figure out the books or whatever it may be, just my opinion, when it comes to that kind of stuff. But when he does show up, when he's out and about, he does stop by to make sure everything's good. You know, I mean, honestly, that's all I can really say. He's doing an exceptional job. I mean, I get that you guys might have communication issues with him or whatever. That's your guys' business. But as a business owner that's constantly growing in this town right now, and my family's investing a lot of money, I mean, I don't know what this. I mean, it's working out. The relationship we have to help us. You know, the relationship I have with Veronica or all the building department over there, Tony and stuff. You know, there's just a few underlying issues that will eventually pop up I would like to resolve. So, but overall, I think he's doing good, and that's all I really have to say. All right.
Good. Anyone else? Okay. Well, then I'll close public comment, bring it back to council, and open the floor for whatever you guys want to decide to do.
Do we fill out these forms by the 5th? I saw that there's a cover letter for the evaluation form. So do we fill it out, turn it in by the 5th for another evaluation? I'm kind of confused about the process.
I didn't even I'm sorry. I put that form in as an example of how you wanted to perform the evaluation. It was, I honestly, when we've done evaluations on the city manager before, some councils have preferred doing a written one. Some have just done a verbal relay information.
That was pretty comprehensive
It's gone back and forth. I added that was basically a template from the IMC CMA. That was their evaluation template. I just put that in as an example of something to use. You don't have to use it if you want to, and then we can come back on the 5th. That's up to you, or disregard it. We just wanted to make sure you had everything that you needed to do this particular item.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. It's not a requirement, it's
Okay.
something that you could use if you chose
Okay, I
to.
was
You don't
just
have a certain
yeah,
policy or
I was
procedure.
confused by
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
My comments. You know, it's intriguing to me that it's intriguing to me that the staff directly below you has defended you. Okay, and they have, right?
I was telling you about my interactions with
No,
them. That was
no,
the
no,
question.
no, no. I didn't say anything negative about that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't say anything negative about that. And I know you work for him, but he works for us. You know, that's all I have to say. No. We're all cards on the table now. We're all open, so we're going to let it all out there. We're not going to like, oh, now I've got the curtain up. No, we're going to talk to each other. So, Don, I know you have a military background, but we don't. We're real people. You know, we like communication, texting, calling. You know, you're spending an hour a day on the road back and forth to home or whatever it is. And pick up the phone, call us. Hey, Chris, what's going on, buddy? Hey, this would make me feel a lot safer in this position if I had that open line of communication with you, and I wouldn't have this blown up like this had we been doing that. So this is my recommendation. Number one, I'm going to ask you: are you teachable? Are you trainable? Are you a learn it all or are you a know it all? I'm going to ask you straight up. I want to hear it.
I am trainable.
You are trainable. You're sure?
Learnable.
Okay, because I am too. I learn all the time. I make mistakes and step on my foot all the time. And I've got to learn from those things and I got to pick myself back up and do it. That's my biggest concern. If you are willing to say, hey guys, you know what? This has been a rough 90 days, man. I feel like I just went through a war zone. We're going to back and surround you, but we're not going to back and surround you if you're not communicating with us. You know? And that to me is vital. It's vital. You know, I gotta feel warm and fuzzy about you sitting right here because I am your boss. You know, and that's not me throwing my weight around. I don't want to do that. You know, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page together. You know, so when things come up, we're surrounding you, we're protecting you. Does that make sense? Not like we're not connected to you, like we're out there in space. Don't communicate with staff. Don't call you. What is that all about? You know what I mean? It's not good. It's not good for us. You know, none of these folks here in the room have ever made me feel that way. Not even one. From Danny over to Chief to Gary to Daryl. Everybody in the room's always made me feel like, man, let's go get a sandwich together, brother. You know, that kind of thing. And maybe that's what's missing here. Maybe I need some of that from you. Maybe I need
appointments
to.
with him? How many appointments have you made with him? Sit down personally and talk to him.
I have talked to him. Yeah, I have. And quite frankly, maybe he was just a little bit, had too much going on in a little thing like this. I couldn't connect to him. You know, so I'm just telling you, you know, if we're going to pull this together and we're going to move forward as a team, I'm going to have to be very transparent, very real with you, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, Don, at all. But I'm saying that this is a very small community, you know, and as far as the council sitting here, this is a great council. It's the best council I've seen since I've been here, you know. The council's on the same page, and we just want to make sure you're on the same page. That's all.
I'm on the same page. That's why I show up early like I do and I stay late like I do. You know, I try not to burden you guys with the immense amount of tasks I'm trying to accomplish. I do apologize for the communication piece. Maybe we just need to spend more time together. We really haven't got to know each other. That's both of us. So that's a us thing that we own. And I would say that across council, you know, get to know me. It breaks down those walls, but understand every day, you know, got your number one best interest at heart. I'm doing everything I can to make this place better. And I come here every day with that single goal in mind. You can ask any directors. I do apologize for the communication piece, but ask anyone. I'm charging for it every day for you. And I just hope that you realize that. I don't, because of this communication gap thing, I don't want that to be lost in the 90 days that I put in, because I've worked hard. And what I will tell you is I will match it to a dollar. None of city managers worked as hard in the first 90 days.
And I can appreciate that, but what I really don't want is a defense. What I want is a humility approach. I answered the call for 3,500 dealers in the state of Virginia every day. They're at 911. They just got something crazy happened. They're like, what do I do? Answer, man. I've got to do. I answer all their calls. I answer them all the time, every single day. If I can answer the call for 3,500 people in Virginia, you can answer the call for 4 city council people and return their calls real quick. You know, does that make sense? Okay.
I'm just, from my perspective, I try not to burden you with things that I'm responsible for.
Don,
And
you are
I
not
just- I just
burdening
don't want
me. You are
to
not
think
burdening me,
that-
sir. You're
that-
not.
That I'm not reaching out to you because I can't handle it. I can handle it. I
No,
just don't.
see. I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want you to feel like you're burdening us or bothering us, because we just want to make sure that we're touching you organically, so that we know you're real, so that our city is safe, so we're not setting our city up or these residents up for a fall from a guy that we're not really connected to or don't connect to here. You know, that's what I want. I want a real person, somebody I can actually talk to. Hey, Don, what's up, buddy? I want somebody who answers the phone. You know what I'm saying? Not somebody who ignores my call and doesn't call me back.
I can't do it all the time.
Bob, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the city manager. Give me a second,
Well,
please.
What
Be
you guys
respectful.
are talking about, what
Bob,
you're
hey,
talking
Bob,
about.
hold on. I'm trying to communicate with Don. I'm not, if you want to talk, we can talk, but I'm trying to communicate with Don. I'm trying to let him see my heart. Not that I'm trying to bully him. I'm trying to connect with him.
But
That's
you
what I'm
might have
trying to
cost a guy a job. I'm just saying, I would
do. I
have
didn't
talked to
say
him in
one
his
thing
office.
about Adam,
Hold on.
sir.
Hold on.
I didn't say one thing about Adam.
So Bob, from what I've heard, and I've heard it all tonight, I've been sitting here moderating the meeting, obviously. You have more access than the rest of council. So I understand you have a different opinion, but Chris has his own opinion because his
Right.
interactions are much less than yours. I can tell you,
And I'm not telling you don't. I'm not telling he's wrong.
but the problem is he's got to fix that.
Right.
You don't have a problem, so you don't need to fix it.
But I would talk to him in his office
Yeah, man.
about my personal problem. If I had a problem that he had with him, I would corner him, get him in his office, and say, hey, what the hell, dude? And I'd talk to him about it. That's all. I've just done it different. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
Because everybody sees this, and he has been working his butt off,
Well-
and it makes it look like he's not. And
Well,
he is.
I can tell you, as the mayor of this city, and I want to try to make this abundantly clear. You know, a good reason that Don is here is because I've monitored his availability, and as we had these openings, I reached out.
Right.
Don is, and I mean this in all sincerity. You are a very talented individual. When we vetted you the last time, I can tell you I was torn when we hired Matt, because I really wanted to hire you, and I had to make a decision between one or the other. And so I always regretted, let me phrase that, Matt was great, but I always regretted not being able to see how you would have been in that position. So as these things had evolved and you were available, and it was difficult. Like I said, you were available one time, then you changed your mind and came back, and your situation is unique. You're retired from military, and you don't have to work, but you have a drive. And so there's so many positive things about you that I just love in an employee, and I know that you can really excel. And so I hope that you see as this has transpired, because I feel like I have less access to you than anybody else. I mean, it sounds like Linda has more access to you than I do. Bob obviously has more access. You made that perfectly clear. I hear from staff, and it is very intriguing. So it sounds like staff has a good relationship. That's 90% of it, for sure. But we, and as I told you, the relationship part, we have to all develop that with you, not just you and Bob. We have to have it. And we I felt like we had that, but like I said, I don't really have that access to you. And I mean, I know you're working hard. It's just like I said, I think there's a path to success. I think there is. My only concern is that you aren't able to take this constructive criticism and hold a grudge. I would hope that would not be the case, because I'm checking out. You know, I know that you can succeed here, and I want you to be successful, and I want to give you the tools. I think we all want that, to give you the tools to be successful. But we've got to have that understanding that another aspect of this is why I trust you, Linda, because it's sounding like a hanging. That's not the intent at all. We have a contractual obligation that once we get to 6 months, there's a severance that kicks in. 25% of that's 20 weeks or something like that. So we don't want to, if we've got a bad fit for the community, we've got to address it. And so I think this was a very, while it was grueling, I think it was beneficial. And so if my colleagues are willing to continue that, we do have another almost 3 months before severance will kick in. I'm not opposed to doing that. Like I said, my only fear is that as a result of this, that you are resentful or anything like that. So I guess if you could let us know your feelings on tonight, and if you are willing to work on these issues that we've identified, I think there's a remedy there. If you're willing, I'm willing.
I'm willing.
I'm calling you tomorrow morning.
You called me.
I expect you to call me on your way home tonight.
Thought you were going to show up when you called me. But here lies the truth. Let's lay it all on the table.
Okay.
There's a communication issue. I think we all own it. I own it. We all own it. To a certain degree, I think that time and space, time and events has kind of been that moment in time where I'm trying to do the best I can for you these first 90 days to show you where I really excel. Maybe I should have slowed down a bit and had more communication. Probably would have been best. But for me, I came into something, there was a lot of targets, and I got massively engaged. Because why? Because I wanted the best for the city. The engagement piece, I can be humble all day long, and we can have those conversations, and we can have that community. We can have, like, Bob just comes into my office. He just, hey, you in there? Yeah, come on in. And that's my policy. If you guys are out there, bring them in, because I do want to speak to you guys. Unfortunately, when you come in, I'm stacked. Because it's not a moment a day goes by that I'm not trying to do something. I apologize those moments that you do poke your head in, like this morning. It was Director Tyler. I was like, okay, we're getting ready to be busy.
Olivia, if I could, Olivia, I wanted to bring that up. Just let you know how I felt about that, because I had support.
I apologize for that. I was just like,
so
getting ready to start it.
And believe me, I'm respectful. If normally I wouldn't even have interrupted that. The reason I did, and I want staff to understand this too, because I don't know how it would have went down if I would have forgot about the meeting or whatever. But I had a meeting at 9 o'clock with Gene Cash and his, I can't remember the lady's name, but his CEO. He is going to do a dollhouse. He builds dollhouse for vets. And he's going to donate one of those for our mayor's ball. And so I had a meeting with him at 9. I got here 5 to 9. I was on the phone. When I came in, it was like right at 9. They were already there. And so I told them we were going to meet in the conference room. And but I first asked them, did you guys talk to staff first? And they said yes. So thinking from a customer's perspective, I want to make sure, thinking from a staff perspective, I want to make sure that whoever they talked to from a staff perspective knew that I had arrived and that I did have them, so they didn't have to worry about those customers anymore. Now, I would hope that whoever they talked to, that they would have checked on them every 5 minutes or something just to make sure they're taken care of. But that was my concern. I wanted to let whoever that they were involved with to know that I am here and I'm with them, so you can not have to worry about that. Because I'm assuming that's what would happen. So when I went in, I noticed that Sal was not in his office and Ashley was not in her office, and your door was closed. So I'm assuming everybody was in there. So I knocked, I opened the door, and I said what I said, just let you guys know I'm with the customers. I've got this. Good. Okay.
I interacted with them.
Okay.
May I suggest, because myself and Marie are the ones who primarily handle that Windows Sal as well, because we're there. If you do have a scheduled meeting here at City Hall with someone, can you let somebody know so we're aware that you have that? Because I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
No, none of the other staff was aware that you had a scheduled meeting. It was almost 9 o'clock. I did provide them your business card so they could contact you directly to make sure you were on your way, and she did. And I did check on them and made sure that they got in contact with you. You had texted them rapidly. So as far as customer service goes, we are handling the customer base that does come in. But if you do have a scheduled meeting, if you could let CM know, myself, either way, so we're aware that you are on your way, or if you're running late, that we know that they're coming in, because I was unaware.
Yeah. Do you have access to my calendar? Maybe not.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
That's my fault. I assume you had access to that calendar, but so I can do that absolutely.
But there was no intent to not support them in any.
Oh no, and that's
it's just
I'm just explaining why
that meeting becomes very. it consumes a large portion of
I didn't
our
want to leave them
administrative
high
staff.
and dry because we were going into our meeting.
Yeah.
They had contacted you, they said you were on your way, and that's why we went ahead and went into the meeting, because they knew that you were coming in.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys knew that I was with them. So but when I did that, it was like I was an alien when I opened the door.
Well, if the mayor's stepping in and looking in, it's everybody's boss is looking in. It's like when
You're
the
the
general
boss.
comes in and goes,
You're the boss.
yeah, but you're everybody's boss. That's that's the transparency, because you see everybody's boss, they'll nod their head yes.
No, you're the boss.
But to them, you're our boss.
Don't look at me like that. I was just trying to be respectful of you all. So
No
You
pressure.
gotta stop thinking that. Don't look at me that way, because you have to understand your position.
It's a level of respect.
It's a level of respect. It's your position. It's all your positions. That's what we're trying to explain to you. Is
And
that
that's- and
you're
I
the
hold
bo-
them
you're the
accountable for
boss's
that.
boss. You're the boss's boss.
well, that level of respect should be. It should be. Oh, hey, Mayor, how you doing?
We're in the
That-
middle of a depart- well, we're in
That's
the-
what I need. From
But
department head meeting. We don't expect the mayor to just open the door and say, "Hey, I got it."
But when he,
Okay.
when he does show his head, though, why would you treat him like a third party citizen? Why wouldn't you just say,
No, it was just a little weird. Yeah.
It was like
I just said, hey, I just let you know that's all I have.
It was like,
And that's the exact look I got from you. That's, I was like,
mayor's
what?
here. I don't know about this. How come I don't know about this? Because everybody's in here.
Anyway,
But it goes back to, I just think we need to have engagement. If you got time, please come visit anytime you
I
got in
think
town.
these are growing pains that we have to go through to get better.
Yeah,
Because if we don't have these conversations,
It's like the
it's
first-
like a good marriage, man.
the
All of a
first
sudden
fight
you
in a
want
marriage.
divorce, You know what I'm saying?
It's like a
You'll
good.
love
Well, I equate it to a good fist fight. You become best friends after a fist fight. So it's just
go
good.
get a room.
It's good to get the transparency out. I just don't want. To me,
Guys.
at the end of the day, it's. I'm there for you. I'm there for you 110%. And I apologize that it doesn't look like it with the communication, but it's like I said, it's been busy. I could have taken the 30, 60, 90-day stance like any other city manager and just kind of let the tide roll. But for you guys and for what I saw with the city, it was like, no, this is, we call it target-rich environment. It's time to get busy because there's a lot of things that need to be done. And so that's kind of the role I took. And I will continue to take that for you, but we'll slow the pace down a bit.
I can
so I
assure
can
you
have,
as a team, we're gonna get a lot more done.
so we'll communicate.
and we need you here.
Yeah,
We do need
we do.
The last thing we want to do is have to change.
We really do. Yes.
But you know something else? You need us.
That's
You
true.
need us.
So let's build that relationship and really.
And then as far as you could, that's kind of the antenna rub is that when you guys call, you guys show up, it spikes everybody here because everybody knows.
Why though?
Because you're the boss's boss. Do you guys see it that way?
They don't care.
Yes, they do.
They'd be like, hey, you got an extra hot dog? You know, like,
I will say that Daryl doesn't. He just like.
Well, these guys, they just walk away from me. They could care less what I say, except for Frank. Frank and I are buddies, but
But I want them to be respectful of your time when you're here. So when you come here, you have access.
your
you
whole
come.
staff is always respectful of me. There's not one person on your staff that's never been respectful.
Good.
Not one time. As
Good.
a resident or a city council person, they've always been respectful.
Good. And that's what it will always
I
be.
just want to be real brief before we're done here. I've dealt with a lot of people, Rick Scott years ago, starting my business and working with him and working with Pasco County, working with a lot of commissioners, different mayors in the city of Newport Richey and council people and a lot of officials in Newport Richey, a few people here in Newport Richey. I've dealt with a lot of city, since '83, I've dealt with a lot of different managers in the city. And I've grown to have patience because when you call them, you're not their priority. They may have another priority. It may be, it is their priority at the time, but it may not be. You got to understand that he may be doing something and he's human. And if you have a difference with him, we don't always get along, even though we see each other. But we work it out.
Are you hanging out here every day?
No, I'm not.
He said he was here every day.
Nope.
I see him.
I've come in before he was here. I've come into City Hall and I've sat in that hallway for half an hour and no one was here. Ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell. No one was here. And sometimes I come in at lunchtime. Shame on me. But sometimes I come in at 2. Everybody's busy doing something. That was before he was here. So everybody's got stuff to do. Everybody has priorities. And if he has something important to do, he's on a call, he has to get out and do something, and he may not make it to you, there's a reason. If you ask him what it is, he'll tell you. He's not gonna lie to you, he's not gonna crap on you, he's gonna make it up to you.
He's gonna tell us he's in a meeting with Bob.
Don't you got anywhere else to hang out?
Well,
We gotta start taking Bob.
we got a couple shots waiting for us probably somewhere. Last call's at 4,
All
right?
right. I think we've been good.
But yeah, he's done a great job as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really sorry that you guys had that experience because I didn't see it. But
I think
talk
it
to
was-
him, please.
I think
He
it was
will.
very good for all of us, and I think it got us out in the open and it allowed us to communicate. I think something like this is sometimes necessary to open things up to where they need to be.
And I would like to say that we didn't, obviously it's 10 after 11 now, so there's not ample time to go over the good things that you've done. And in any evaluation, you should hear the good and the bad, and hopefully, there would be more good than bad. And I'm sure in this case, there are more good things than bad, but we're on.
Well, can everybody agree that there is more good things than bad?
Yes, I would say that.
We don't know yet. It's time to go. Now it's bedtime.
You
No,
know,
Don
don't
works
want it
hard.
I don't want it
He
to
does
go
work hard, yes.
unrecognized that you have worked on a lot of projects and a lot of things are coming to fruition around here. People are going to start noticing some noticeable change.
Yep.
And I think
And the good things, obviously, we didn't touch the strategic plan stuff that was put out here. There's work being done.
There's a lot of work.
I have no qualm with what work is being done. Like I said, the big thing was the communication. And obviously, I want you to make sure that you're involving legal appropriately. It sounds like there's some issues there that have been worked out. So I think, again, we'll touch base in another 30 days or whatever, and I think we'll find a whole different scenario.
Matt Koppler is in the back office. I talked to you a little bit about it. But, we went head to head. His face was red and you were shaking. We were not getting along, but now we're good friends. Real good friends. It's just,
Don and I are going to be just fine. Trust
just got to be at the same time, I'm respectful about their ideas and listen to them, but you're going to listen to me too, one way or the other. And then you get your point across, get their point across.
One of the things still feels that way. I'm just playing.
That's my wife.
I think we're good here.
Yeah, we're
so Don, appreciate you. We're going to continue to work with you. Let's build those relationships and let's move the city forward like we want. Okay.
Don,
Is there a
motion
motion?
to adjourn.
second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? I'm just kidding.